discussing the 3 questions that came from art and culture, and let us get forward with the remaining 3 questions. Out of the remaining 3 questions, we got 2 from modern India and 1 from post-independence. Again, last class already I discussed that they have come from slightly unexpected areas, particularly the modern India ones. Let us take the next question of modern India. Listen to the question properly. Why did the armies of British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, win consistently against Indian armies of Indian rulers, even though these armies were numerous and better equipped? That is the question they asked. Why the armies of British East India Company? British East India Company name is British, but who are the soldiers? Most of them are Indian soldiers only. The Indian soldiers fighting under them, this company used our own people and defeated Indian armies. Here also Indian soldiers are fighting. Then what is the difference? That is what they are asking. A straightforward question. Although there is no book, standard book where you will find this question, but easily when you read the topic of British conquest of India, when you read British conquest of India, this chapter, you can clearly see why Britain was able to conquer India. In this chapter, you can easily find answers for this. So what kind of an introduction you can give to this? A simple introduction will say that starting from 1715 in Battle of Plassey, by 1818 with the Third Anglo-Maratha War, the British conquered entire India. Now how many years did they take? Imagine entire subcontinent of India. I am not talking about India means only India, including Pakistan and Bangladesh, all these areas. How long did they take? Roughly just 60 years. And shame on us, 60 years they were able to conquer entire country. So by giving this as an introduction, you are telling how weak we were and how strong they were. Once you have given that statement that within span of 60 years they conquered entire subcontinent of India, coming into the body, you will try to write the reasons why this happened. That is the question. That is what they are asking the question. And you can in fact give one very interesting fact. Here, look at this. It is a company, British East India Company. They recruited Indian soldiers in India. Okay. Back in Britain, imagine in the year 1800, this fact if you write, it will add some weight to your answer. 1800 year, the British government in Europe and the British East India Company in India. Now this is just a company from Britain, but the amount of the strength of army of the British government was smaller than the strength of army of the British company in India. Now you can imagine that when you give that fact, that will give an impression for the examiner, which means the government is having less army than the company which is coming from Britain. Where did these people recruit so many soldiers? Again, they were all, yes please, they were all Indian soldiers. So after giving these 2 points, you can start writing the reasons why why British company was able to defeat Indian army so easily. Let us see some of those reasons. In a war, always remember, more than your strength, what matters is your strategy. The quality of leader. If you remember, if you would have studied your medieval India, in medieval India there is a battle in which Babur, initially his soldiers are afraid against the Rajputs, but Babur was trying to give a sense of confidence to their people. Okay, so more than the number of people, the army size, what matters is the quality of leadership. And the first factor that was in favor of the British company, soldiers are Indians only, but who are the leaders? are the British leaders. So the first factor which gave them benefit, as they'll simply give a side heading that reasons for the superiority of British East India Company, and then you'll start listing out the reasons. The more you write, the more points you're going to get. The strong character of the military generals, the strong characters of the military generals of British East India Company, and their superior strategies. And what happens, generally, when you have a small army, you have to be more cautious, yes or no? Because the person who has large army, they will have overconfidence. They will think, we can defeat them. In Ibrahim Lodi, in medieval India also, first battle of Panipat, Babur came and defeated and killed Ibrahim Lodi. Who had a larger army? Ibrahim Lodi had a larger army. But why did Babur win? Because same, it is not size, doesn't matter, the strategy matters. Same these people were doing here. That is the first factor you will write. Character of the military generals and the superior strategies these people used. Second, these military generals were not one or two. They had an entire series of leaders. That is, every time they took care, the British ensured the availability of alternative leaders. Why? What is the guarantee that a leader who has gone into the war will come back alive? Now you cannot depend on one person. Even if he dies, that strategy should be there in the mind of another leader. He should be ready. Unfortunately for Indian military rulers, we did not have Indian rulers did not have second line leadership. Second line leaders. That is, although Indian rulers also had brilliant, very, very brilliant leaders, but unfortunately, ready-made leadership line was not there. They were depending upon one or two batsmen like Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin Tendulkar out means it's out in those days. But now, even if Kohli goes, someone else will come. Okay, so that is how these people always had a steady supply of good leaders. Next, this company, British East India Company, was a private trading company, and due to their trade, they were able to make a lot of profits, and with these profits, they were able to build huge armies. That is, they never faced any kind of financial crunch. What was happening to Indian rulers? Just imagine, Indian rulers, what were they doing with their taxes? They used to live luxurious life, enjoy their life, lost in pleasure and all these things. Where will they have money to give to the soldiers? Where these people, they are not wasting their profits. They are using these profits to build huge armies. And because of this related point is that the British East India Company was a good paymaster. That is, they gave salaries on time and higher salaries compared to Indian rulers. So they gave better and regular salaries. And when you give better and regular salaries to soldiers, will the soldiers be loyal to you? Yes. They were able to keep the loyalty of Indian soldiers. Unfortunately for Indian rulers, again as I said, their luxurious lives and all these things, they were not concentrating on the army. They were overconfident. They thought, what will this company do to us? After all, it is a small company. It is a company, but it is a very, very rich company. This company is an army which is more than their own government. Such a big company it is. You are underestimating the power of these companies. That is the next point. You'll say that Indian rulers underestimated the strength of company. And were overconfident of their strength. And they were overconfident of their strength. That was another weakness. Never underestimate others unless and until you know their power. You should not. Another problem with Indian rulers is Indian rulers lacked unity among themselves. And often they joined hands often they joined hands with the British East India Company to defeat other Indian powers. That is the problem with us, other Indian kingdoms. You can give several examples. For example, Anglo-Mysore War, where to kill Tipu Sultan, it is not only British company which is going. British company was helped by Marathas and Nizam. Three of these people went and attacked Mysore and killed Tipu Sultan. And after killing Tipu Sultan, they shared the Mysore territory among themselves. Marathas took one piece, Nizams took one piece, and British East India Company took one piece. See the problem there? That is, lack of unity among Indian rulers also gave them a chance that in fact our own people, they were joining hands with the foreign company to defeat other Indian kingdoms. Example, if you give one example, wherever is possible, it's good. In the Anglo-Mysore Wars, particularly the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, British plus Marathas plus Nizams, all these three together attacked Mysore and killed Tipu Sultan. 7. Again, another problem with our armies was the feudal nature of Indian kingdoms. Now, if you have studied your medieval India, Rajputs were defeated by the Turks. Why? Rajputs, when you say, here the same logic applies here. Feudal means your political power is decentralized. There is a superior king, and that superior king, below that superior king, there are subordinate kings. And when you have subordinate kings, the superior king doesn't maintain a big army. What is the problem? Whenever he wants to go on war, instead of maintaining his own army, he will be dependent upon the army of his subordinates. So when he wants to go to war, he will call these people and they will supply the armies for this man. And as soon as the battle will finish, they will run away again. Everyone will go to their own states. So now, which means, although you have more number of people, they will not stay united, they will not stay on the battlefield for a long time, which is making the central leader too much dependent upon the subordinate leaders. That was one more weakness of Indian kingdoms, because their armies were all feudal. Another advantage with the British company was, the British East India Company recruited soldiers on the basis of merit. Whereas the problem with Indian kingdoms we were mainly caste-based recruitment. Kshatriyas, they will prefer Kshatriyas. Muslim kingdoms will prefer Muslim ruler, Muslim people. Hindus will prefer Hindus. Again in Hindus, they will prefer Kshatriya caste. If you remember, if you would have studied again Delhi Sultanate, there you will have found that the Turks used to employ only Turkish people. They will not allow even non-Turkish Muslims like Khiljis and all, they will discriminate against themselves. So that was the problem with that is why the quality of soldiers was better in the East India Company, because the recruitment was on basis of merit, not religion, caste, etc. No, that was not the basis for recruitment. And last 1 or 2 points also you can say is that the British people, they were all having what this you learn from world history. They were having the Renaissance spirit. From world history you will study this, that because their minds are enlightened, they don't depend on gods and all these things much. They are excessively believing in their own capacity to do things. Okay, so with the Renaissance spirit of mind, they are very, very adventurous and risk taking. They were adventurous, they were very risk taking in nature. Okay, and they were very, very systematic, which means they gave good training to the soldiers. Good training, very disciplined. If you today you see Indian army and all, where do you think Indian army comes from? Essentially it is a continuation of the British East India Company army only. Okay, and that system of training was very, very systematic, and all these soldiers were given nice these things. And you can also say that the British people had a good naval power. Whereas, imagine what about Indian kingdoms? Indian kingdoms, no one really maintained a very strong navy. So, even if they are defeated on the land, they will defeat you on the sea. Easily they will defeat you on the sea. Because where did they come from, the British people? They are coming from all along from Europe till India. Did you ever cross these areas? No. So, naturally we will be defeated very, very easily. all these reasons you can say for why this British East India Company was able to defeat our Indian armies. Okay. If you have a good conclusion, you can write. Otherwise, also simply say that due to all these above stated reasons, it became easy for the British to conquer India. There is one aspect which is slightly unrelated to this, not very much related to it, but still you can add it as a conclusion that although British used wars as a mean to conquer India, they also used cunning diplomatic methods by forming secret alliances inside kingdoms, by putting spies. There were other methods also by which they were able to conquer India. So that's how you can simply close the answer.